Hi, this is 50/50, Real Estate Podcast for the Common Man, where we talk about selling, buying, and investing in real estate. We aren't baffling you with BS. We're dazzling you with brilliance. We're not telling you how to become a millionaire. We're telling you stories, the truth, and the information no one is talking about. So sit back, listen, laugh, and enjoy 50/50, Real Estate Podcast for the Common Man.
Hey everybody, I'd like to thank our new sponsor, Doors. Yes, Doors. Hey, if you're buying a new or used home, make sure your home has doors. Hey everybody, JD here. Hope you're looking good and feeling fine. Hopefully you had a great weekend with friends, neighbors, relatives, and friends. We're going to be discussing on this podcast things that nobody has been talking about. Yeah, I mean, I could sit back and repeat myself that I did last year, that a lot of people have been just repeating everything they've said on their podcasts and YouTube videos for years. Oh, the housing market's going to go down. Interest rates are going to go up. And we're going to be in a recession. You know, I said that last year. Go back, listen to my podcast last year, and you'll see that I'm stating that interest rates are going to go up, the housing market was going to go down, inflation was going to go up, the holiday seasons were going to be terrible. I said that back in about 2020, 2021. I was like maybe a year, 2 years ahead of my time. So I'm not going to be repeating stuff just to repeat it like so many people do. They listen to podcasts, you listen to their YouTube videos, and they say the same thing every week. So what I did is I did a lot of research, looking at stuff that is new and people aren't talking about the past month. And I said, hey, I think I got some really, really good talking points on this podcast. So sit down, get yourself a cup of coffee, and write this stuff down, or just think about it. Think about it over the week. Well, first thing I have seen is, hey, get a HELOC. Pay off your bills, pay off your car, pay off your high credit cards, your school loans, your debt, whatever do. Get a HELOC. Use that equity on your home to pay all your bills. Well, what a HELOC is, it's just a fancy name to say that is a home equity line of credit. So all you're doing is you're using your equity in your home as a credit card. So let me tell you the difference, because people think, well, what's the difference between that and refinancing and pull out equity? Well, I'll tell you. So many people, they go out, they see that they have tremendous amount of equity now, and they think, wow, I'm paying 21% interest, I'm paying school loans, I'm paying 10% on my car. I'm going to refinance my home, even if that's 6.5%, which is real high, but people still do it, and I'm going to pay off all my debt. So they do that. And what basically they're doing is they're taking their equity out of their home, and then they're paying off all the bills. But here's what I see a lot of people doing. I've seen it. I've been selling real estate for about 34 years, and I see this all the time. They get all this equity in the home. They go out. They refinance the home. They pay all this equity out. They pay off the bills, the cars, their school loans, whatever else, their debt they might have. And then they got a lot of other money. So what they start doing is going, hey, guy, maybe I should, I always like to have a trailer, a camper trailer. Maybe we should go buy a camper trailer. Or, hey, let's go on that big, great cruise that we haven't been on for a long time. We've been stuck in that pandemic. We haven't been on vacation for 3 or 4 or 5 years. Let's take the rest and use it on a vacation. Or let's go buy some widescreen TVs. Or I always wanted a truck, so let's go buy a truck in cash. And they use a lot of that equity. And then when the market goes down, which it is, because I'm going to explain what's going on here, all of a sudden they get stuck, they lose their jobs, they're forced into selling, and they have no equity, and they're upside down. And they've used all that equity to pay off all their bills and go on vacation, that they don't have any equity to sell. They're stuck. They're in a house that's overinflated. They've overmortgaged their home. They basically have to walk away from it or do a short sale. And a short sale just means that they have to negotiate with the mortgage company for less than what they owe, and the mortgage company has to agree to take a loss. And I've explained this a lot in past podcasts, but I'll just explain it real quick. There's nothing short about a short sale, so you can't just say, hey, look, I'm upside down in my house, I want to do a short sale. If you've got assets, money in the bank, you got a good job, you can definitely afford the payments now, and so on and so forth, they're not going to let you do a short sale. But if you lost your job, you're broke, no assets, no income, and you're just going to let the house go, they're going to want what they call a hardship case, letters, incomes, things like that. They want to make sure that you can't afford the payment, and then they'll negotiate a short sale. But you can't walk away with equity. And some people think, oh, hey, I want to walk away with some equity. No, they're not going to have the mortgage company take a loss and then you walk away with money. So anyway, a lot of people will extend themselves, take a lot of home equity out and pay all their bills, and then just get right back into trouble. Another thing with HELOC is it's kind of like a credit card. So you don't stop paying payments on a home equity line of credit until you use it. So a lot of people use it as a credit card, kind of their house as a ATM. So they go out, they use their credit card to buy groceries and go on vacations and buy trucks and cars and so on and so forth. So the difference between a HELOC is, let's say you might have $100,000 worth of equity, but in a refinance you might pull out $100,000 worth of equity, but the minute you pull that out, you're paying payments on $100,000 worth of equity. On a HELOC, you only pay on what you pull out. So if you just pay, take $20,000 to buy a car, you're only paying on a $20,000 loan, not on a $100,000 loan. So that's kind of what a HELOC is. And it sounds really good. And it also sounds really good to say, well, gee, to use a refi and take, a lot of the equity out of the house, because a lot of people do have equity. That's great because I can pay off my bills, pay that, pay, go on vacation and so on and use a HELOC. But guess what, folks? If you haven't noticed, the housing market is going down big time. Big time. The party is over. We are going downhill really quick, really fast. In matter of fact, the market is going down 1 to 2% each month now. That's what I said, 1 to 2% each month. So we'll discuss kind of a little bit of the housing market and, when is a good time to buy and so on and so forth. But if you've refinanced, okay, and remember you had all that equity, or you do a HELOC and you run that HELOC up, and then all of a sudden, within 6 or 8 months, a year, your house is worth $40, $50, $60, $80,000 less than it was worth a year ago. You've over-mortgaged your home, even though a year ago your house was worth what it was, but now it isn't. It's gone down a ton in value, but now you refinanced it and you owe more than what it's worth. Or you used your home equity line of credit, ran it all up, and now your house isn't worth what it used to be. It's depreciated, and now you got more. You owe more on your home that you should have, because you used your home equity line of credit like it was an ATM machine. So a lot of people, are doing this. A lot of people are using that home equity line of credit, that HELOC, because you figure, why should I use a credit card and pay 21%? I can use a HELOC and only pay 6-7%. But they just get themselves in big trouble. And, this whole sales pitch is, hey, why pay 21%? Just use your HELOC to pay off those loans and only pay 7%. And if you only use a little bit of your equity, you can just pay interest on a little bit of equity, so you don't have to pay. And if you don't use your HELOC at all, you don't have to pay any payments. Hey, isn't that wonderful? Well, that's kind of stupid, and people, they just don't think. That's like saying, let me issue you a credit card, and if you never use it, you're never going to have to pay payment. Now, come on. How many people have credit cards that they never use? It's a joke. It's a scam. People use it, and then they just don't realize it, and they just keep using it, thinking that I only have to pay 6 or 7%, not 21%. And then pretty soon they're upside down. They owe $50,000 on their HELOC loan, and they're upside down, and it just gets really ugly really quick. So, like I said, the homes are depreciating. They're going down 1 to 2% each month. As a matter of fact, I just saw a home that was listed for, it was listed for like 90 days. Started out at $675, and it sold for $610 plus. They paid, think about $8,000 towards the buyer's closing costs. So close to $40,000 less than what they listed it in 2 months. So this is really happening. Now, here's what I looked at. People always say, when is a good time to buy? When I'm sitting here, I'm renting, or I'm thinking about selling my home, try to get a good deal, but everything is so overpriced. AD, good grief. I still look at a lot of homes in my area. They're still $100,000 overpriced. I mean, I look at some of these things, they're like $600,000. They should be like $500,000. So you have to put aside the pandemic. This is a false economy, false interest rates, smoke and mirrors. It's false, fake, smoke and mirrors, a magic trick, an illusion the past 3 or 4 months. But here's another thing. If you own a home, you're going to get hosed. Totally 100% hosed, because when property taxes come out next year and they assess you on some false economy with a false interest rate at a false price, you are going to get totally hosed on property taxes. And now that the housing market is collapsing and going down, it might be, next year 20 to 30% less than it is this year. You're going to be paying taxes on a house value that really didn't exist in a real market. And it's sorry, buddy. That's wait until 3 years from now when we reassess your house, and then we'll reassess it on what it should be. It's a total scam. It's so many people are going to get totally screwed. I hate to use that word, because when property taxes come out and they see their property evaluations, and then they do a market analysis, and they say, well, wait a minute. 2 years ago, my house was worth $80,000 more, and now it's $80,000 less, but you've assessed me on a home that's $100,000 more 3 years ago in a false economy, and now I'm paying property taxes on a home's valuation that was just smoke and mirrors and so on. It's going to be ugly, folks. If you're listening to this, get ready. Sit on down, because when you get your tax assessment next year, I hope you're sitting down, because so many people in the U.S. are just going to get totally hosed. That's about it. So, besides tax, the taxes that people are going to pay, that they're going to be all crying and whining and so on, because it's going to happen, man. I'm ready for it. It's going to happen. And I'm getting everything possibly that I can possibly go to my county and argue the fact Hopefully they'll listen to me because I've been a real estate agent for 35 years. But who cares? I'm just another Yahoo who's probably bitching and moaning because of their taxes. That place will probably be packed with people complaining. But anyway, here's people say, hey, JD, when's a really good time to buy? If everything fell into line, when is a really good time to buy? And I say, hey, look, if properties are going down 1 to 2% each month, it's going to take 15 months for homes to come back to a good price where they should be, because that'll eliminate all the false market, the pandemic market, the low fake interest rates they have, the homes that are appreciated to insane rates that had nothing to do with the market. It just had to do with crazy people buying overinflated homes. So let me explain like what a really good deal is. So what I say is homes are going down 1 to 2%, and you say wait about 15 months for homes to come back to normal. Now, how do you determine what a really good buy is? You say, well, how do I know what a good price is, when to start to buy? Well, here's the thing. Let's look at, write this down. Let's look at in 2019, a home was worth $400,000. Okay, let's say we never had a pandemic. We didn't have these fake interest rates. It's a normal everyday market. And you go back to 2019 and you say, look in 2019, or say for the past 20 years, homes have went up 3 to 5%. Yeah, sometimes they went up maybe 7%, but on an average maybe 3 to 5%. So we're going to use 5% appreciation each year, and we're going to use that as an example. So say a $400,000 home in 2019, let's say it goes up 5% that year. So you take the $400,000 in 2019 and you add $20,000. So that means at the end of 2019, the house was worth about $420,000. So now you take the $420,000 in 2020 and you say, let's add another 5% on that. So that's $21,000, and you say now in beginning of 2021, that house is worth $441,000. Now you say, okay, in 2021 we add another 5%, so that's $22,050. You add that on and you say, okay, the house is worth about $463,000 in 2022. Let's say in 2022 you add another 5%, so that's another $23,150. So 2023, that house should be worth $486,150. So if you look at that, that's about where I say 480 to maybe 500. That is where the good deal is. So if you're getting $700,000-$800,000 houses and they're still up there, they're way over inflated. And I think after about maybe a year or two, these sellers, or start getting educated. They're not going to be selling the homes at crazy overinflated prices. The real estate agents are all going to be going out of business. They're all wrapping. I see it now. A lot of agents are leaving. Lenders are leaving. Title companies are leaving. They're starting to lay off a lot of people. Builders are starting to lay off a lot of people. Plumbers. Framers, people who do concrete work, electricians, they're all starting to leave. They're all starting to lose their jobs and so on and so forth. So eventually the sellers are going to finally get real on their prices. And they're going to start lowering the prices. Like I said, just looking at the market right now, it's gone down 1 to 2% a month. So Like I said, I'm predicting a 20 to maybe 30% depreciation in the next year, year and a half. Interest rates about 7.25 right now, and you're going to hear a lot about points. Where you're out there and you're looking at buying a home, you call up the mortgage company and they quote, yeah, that's a 7.25%, and you go, oh, that's great. But then you try to get a loan and they go, oh, that's 7.25% at 2 points, and you go, what is that? And that means in order to get 7.25, you have to pay 2%. So if you're paying a $400,000 loan, you have to come up with $8,000 to the lender to get you the 7.25%. So people who are purchasing homes right now, they can't afford that. And sellers, are just desperate. So what's happening is so many buyers are asking the sellers to pay the points and closing costs. So you're getting, offers, hey, lowballing you on the house, and then coming up with, we want $6,000 towards closing costs. We want, $6,000 towards our buy down of our interest rates, or $10,000. So all the offers that you're seeing, or probably will be seeing, will always ask, probably in today's market, for financing points to be paid, for lower interest rates, closing costs to be paid, all that. Now, what's really becoming kind of popular now is what we call a 2-1 buy down. 2-1 buy down. You haven't even heard that for quite a long time. And what a 2-1 buy down is, you're buying the rate down. It's pretty kind of popular right now because if you think, okay, in the next couple of years, interest rates, the economy will be better, maybe a new president, economy will really go down, interest rates will really drop. It's something you should really look into, and it's starting to become really, really popular because so many people are like, hey, we got high interest rates, it's going to be short term, maybe a year or two. After the elections, things will start getting better, and so on and so forth. Interest rates will start coming down, and that'll be great. So a 2-1 buy down is, let's say interest rates are 7% right now. Well, what they do is they say, let's buy the rate down in 2023 from 7 to 5, so 2%. So it's locked in for 1 year at 5%. Then it goes up in 2024 at 6%. Then in 2025 it goes to 7%, and then it locks in, it fixes out. So a lot of people say, well, gee, if interest rates are really high, I can fix that interest. If interest rates go to 10, which I doubt they might go that high, who knows? At least we're locked in at 7%. Or they say, well, look, we start, interest rates were in 2022 or 2023 were 7, 8, 9, and 3 years later they're back down to 4, 5. Hey, we can refinance at a fixed rate. So what you're seeing is a lot of 2-1 buy downs on a lot of homes, with them also coming in and asking the seller to pick up points and financing and so on and so forth. What I see a lot of people, and we'll kind of wrap this thing up, a lot of people say, okay, if I'm going out right now and I'm thinking about buying a home and I really have to go out and buy a home, what's a good offer? What's a good offer? Now, I looked at, probably 30 years of selling and buying homes and so on, and representing the purchasers and the sellers. And I sat down one day and I looked at a lot of the MLS, mortgage, the multiple listing service, and I looked at what sellers list their homes and what sellers took. And there was this magical number that kept coming up. And it came up on a lot of homes that are sold, and not in the the pandemic when interest rates were really low and people were bidding $30 or $40, $50,000 above their asking price. Though that, like I said, that was a false market. Wipe it off. Get your, eraser and wipe it off your eraser board, because that was just a fake 3 years. That's just a joke. But on a normal market, what I noticed is when buyers bid 3% lower than the asking price, the sellers were taking them. So let me use an example. If a home was $400,000 and you said, I want to bid 3% lower, and you bid $388, that was kind of like the magic number. Sellers were taking all that. So it's really, really kind of interesting that, I looked at that, and I always say, if you're thinking about purchasing a home, later on when the market kind of goes down a little bit more, you might want to think about maybe when you do put an offer in, can't guarantee you that the seller's going to take it, but you might want to put in an offer 3% lower just to start and see if the seller will take it, because that seemed to be the magic number for 30 years. When I looked at the listing prices to what they sold, was interesting. And the final thing to kind of wrap this up is builders are really, really stuck with a tremendous amount of overpriced inventory. And what I have found out about builders, it's really sneaky what these guys are doing. Really sneaky. There's been so many canceled contracts, and because people just don't want to pay these overinflated prices, they're now paying twice as much in interest rates, so almost $1,000 more a month on their payments than what they did, a year ago. So they're walking away. Also, they're not selling the homes for ridiculous prices. They see their home equities going down the tubes, and they were like, I'm going to put $100,000 down because I can sell my house really quick. And now they see that they're only going to walk away with $50,000, if that, and they just won't be able to afford the new home. So a lot of them are just canceling contracts, walking away, and these builders are stuck with all these empty houses. Well, I started driving through these new builders' neighborhoods, and at first I saw nothing. I mean, a year ago, 2 years ago, wow, there was so many buildings and people putting siding and roofs on, and they were stuccoing and finishing out, and plumbers and cars going in and out and all. Now I see maybe just a few houses being built and finished out. The rest are just sitting empty. Nobody's working on them. But over the past 3 or 4 months, I noticed something. I noticed they're building Hollywood homes. And I said, this is really interesting. Wow, look at these. These are what they call Hollywood homes. I see what these builders are doing. And what Hollywood homes are, if you ever go to a movie set, the houses look like they're completely built. But when you go into them, they're completely gutted. There's no house inside of it. It's just a frame, and they built the outside out, but you go in and there's no plumbing, or the frame's there. There's no drywall or insulation or nothing. They just build the outside of the house and leave the inside completely undone. So what these builders are doing is, because they'll basically have all this inventory and they don't want to have these neighborhoods look like abandoned and half built, what they're doing is just building out the outside of the homes and leaving the insides unfinished, so the homes don't and the neighborhoods don't look abandoned. And it's really interesting because over the past probably 6 months, I've seen these homes that were just framed, and nobody was finishing them out, and now I slowly see them finished, but they've been sitting there for 3 or 4 months, and when I kind of go into them, nothing's finished on the inside. So it's really interesting. They're just kind of finishing the outside on. They're not landscaping or anything. They're just finishing the outside of the home, probably winterizing it so, the inside of the house still stays in good shape. So if they do eventually get buyers, they can finish the outside out. But it's funny because you go in and you go down the street and you go, wow, look at all these homes are finished. But then you walk through them and none of them are built in. None of them have been finished inside. They're just kind of like Hollywood homes. They're just kind of houses that are fake. Nothing's been wired, no plumbing, no nothing, except the outsides have been finished. So really interesting about new home builders and this little tricks of what they're trying to do, and I thought that was really, really interesting. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I hope you had a great weekend. Hope a lot of this information I gave you makes you open up your eyes, maybe think about selling or buying your home in the future. Keep track of the interest rates. I think they're going to probably I bet you they go up to 8% probably in the next 3 to 5 months. I see the market probably going down another 10 to 15% in the next maybe 6 months. So altogether, you're going to probably see a 30% drop from, I'd say, this month to, I'm going to say April or May of next year. So you're going to see a lot of homes, a lot of bank foreclosures coming. I'm just starting to see a lot of bank foreclosures coming up now, but even these bank foreclosures are way, way overpriced. You got these real estate agents that are just overinflating the home foreclosures because they're using 6 months ago competitive market analysis, and they're not adjusting for today's market. So even the banks are just overpricing their homes. So I just, like I say, wait it out. We got an election in a few days. Hopefully, that'll change. Maybe some decent people will get in there with some sense and start fixing the economy. And hopefully the energy costs will go down and interest rates might go down. The economy and inflation might go down. And things might be getting back to normal. But who knows? Like I said, who really knows? It's just kind of a sit on the sidelines and get yourself a bunch of popcorn and watch the game, because it's going to be really interesting in the next year. Well, again, folks, thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it, and have a really, really good week. Talk to you later. Bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed the show, Real Estate for the Common Man. Please follow us or subscribe. Tell your friends, neighbors, relatives, and coworkers about us. We're on all your major podcast apps: Amazon, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. If you can't remember all that, just Google it, or have your friends Google Real Estate for the Common Man, and it will come up. Again, we thank you very much for your time, and hopefully you enjoyed the show. Hey, if you live in Colorado Springs and want to buy or sell a home, you can look us up at soldrealestatecompany.com as in I sold a home. Again, thank you very much. Have a very good week, and we'll see you next Monday.